Hi, Christian Chudo here, academyofphotography.com. Today I would like to talk about metering. What is metering and why is it important to know which metering mode to choose? Metering is basically the ability of the camera to measure the light in the scene, to measure the brightness of the subject and how much light is in front of it. And this is very important because camera will adjust its settings accordingly. Depending on how much light is in front of it, the camera will pick up the shutter speed, aperture or ISO depending on the mode you shoot in. However, it is important for us to understand that the camera will take a decision first. It will take a measurement, it will estimate how much light is in the scene. I'm gonna go through an experiment a little bit later, but before that I would like to go through which metering modes we can choose. We can choose the spot metering. The spot metering is when we actually want to measure only a small spot in the picture. It's the subject or where we actually focus. So imagine you have a very lit face into with a dark background. That means once we pick up the face, which is in light, the camera will adjust the exposure settings in order to expose for the face and not what's around it. Another setting is partial mode, so the camera will estimate how much light is in the particular spot plus the surroundings. It will make an average measurement, it will take an average lighting level and it will adjust the settings accordingly. Also, on the other side we have a fully evaluative mode where the camera measures the whole scene and it will come up with an average lighting level in the scene, and it will take a decision and it will expose accordingly. It is important to choose which one, because if you want to expose for only one part of the picture, you need to know that. If you want to expose for the whole picture, that's a different thing. So I am proposing today an experiment to show you what I'm talking about. Basically what I've done here, I just took a black piece of paper with a hole into it. Let's consider this scene which is dark, and I'm gonna go, the subject should be seen through the hole, and behind this hole I have a lit background. So I'm gonna show you on the back of my camera. It will simulate properly how the camera measures the light in the scene. So what I'm gonna show you with this experiment is that by focusing on the particular subject, the camera will adjust the exposure settings accordingly. Focusing on the black, as you can see, camera will create more light in the scene. It will actually adjust its settings accordingly, so it will compensate for the lack of light. If I'm moving my focus point into the middle, I'm actually focusing behind this piece of paper. I'm gonna focus on the background, and the camera will ignore the piece of paper and it will adjust, it will expose for what's behind. Well, that proves the importance of the spot metering or the evaluative metering, because if we're talking about a spot metering, focusing on a dark spot in an image will overexpose the rest of the image. Focusing on the lit spot in the image will underexpose the rest of the image. Okay, now this is a real example how to use the spot metering. In this case we have the dummy face which is in light, and we have the background which is in a bit of shade, so there's a bit of contrast here. So general rule of thumb, when I have this situation, I will switch on the spot metering. So using the spot metering, in this case it will focus on the head and it will expose only for the head properly, and that will show an underexposed background. Just moving my focus away from our subject, and I will turn the background to become a subject. As you can see, the camera will overexpose the head and will expose the background properly. So this is the best use of the spot metering. Otherwise I would use partial metering, and that will calculate the scene somewhere in between. Anyway, I'm not really concerned about that, because usually this thing can be fixed very easy on the computer. So a lot of people are asking me which metering mode are you using. Well, I'm using most of the time, 99% of the time,
the partial metering because I always can fix everything on the computer, but if I have such a situation, I will definitely switch it on spot metering. I hope that helps.
So in conclusion, if you have a subject which is in contrast with the rest of the scene, it's important to decide if you want to expose for the subject or if you want to expose for the whole scene. If you want to expose for the subject, you can use spot metering mode, and depending on the lighting level, if the subject is very light, the rest of the scene will be underexposed, and vice versa. If the subject is dark, that means the rest of the scene will be overexposed. If there's not much contrast, you can use the evaluative metering or the intermediate. The intermediate is something in between, so you decide how big is the subject in your scene and use that accordingly. Metering mode is not really important when you use manual settings because you have the control on all the settings. Metering mode is important on anything else but the fully manual mode. I would suggest you pick up your camera, you go outside during the day, you pick up a scene where there's a lot of contrast and you test all the metering modes. This is the way to learn. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until I'll see you next time, I wish you happy shooting. Thank you very much.